tomorrow. Joining us now is one of the members of the Select Committee, Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff. Congressman, thank you so much for being with us. The idea that Cheney and Kinzinger could be punished, maybe even lose their other committee assignments for serving on this committee with you, what does that tell you?
Well, it tells you where Kevin McCarthy is and where the Republican Party is, and that is they're an anti-truth party. They don't want the facts to come out about January 6th, and we really already saw them punish Liz Cheney by stripping her of her leadership position, and not for anything having to do with the Select Committee, but because she refused to carry the president's big lie about the election. And she was willing to speak candidly about January 6th and where she thinks the Republican Party ought to go. So the retribution began earlier. It wouldn't surprise me if they did more, but it just shows how hollow that party has been, how much it has been hollowed out by the former president, and it's really more of a cult of his personality now.
On the subject of retribution, CNN also has some new reporting this morning that one thing that some Republicans are considering or discussing inside McCarthy world is, since Speaker Pelosi removed Jim Jordan and Banks from the Select Committee, that if they take back power in 2022, they're going to start to do that to Democrats. They're going to remove committee assignments from Democrats that they don't like. What do you think of that?
Well, look, the rules of the Select Committee, which again only came about because Kevin McCarthy rejected an independent commission that would have been 5 Democrats and 5 Republicans. The rules of the Select Committee say that the Republican will nominate and the Speaker will decide who sits on the Select Committee. She accepted 3 of McCarthy's nominees, but 2 others were hostile to the very mission of the Select Committee and were put on merely to disrupt. And so that was the right decision. We're just going to keep our focus on where it needs to be, which is bringing out the facts of January 6th, what led up to it, what needs to be done to protect the country going forward. McCarthy and the Republicans, that cult of Donald Trump, will do what they're going to do, but we're going to keep our eyes on the mission.
I was going to ask you about that. How does the actual membership of this committee affect what you will be doing starting tomorrow?
Well, look, I think all of the membership thus far is very serious about the task. We want to bring out in the testimony tomorrow the firsthand accounts of these police officers, the violence of that day. We hope their testimony will be powerful enough to rebut this revisionist history that you hear from some of our colleagues that claim this was a normal tourist day and try to downplay the significance of what happened, the most serious attack on our capital in hundreds of years. So we would like the public to be able to see and understand what it was like to be on the front lines that day and how much these brave officers risked their lives to save ours, to save the vice president and the speaker, but also all of the members of Congress. I know I feel very indebted to them.
We understand there'll be some video that hasn't been released before. What can you tell us about that?
Well, hopefully we'll have the opportunity to show the public a video that these officers lived, that they experienced, so that they can understand what it was like to be facing off against that massive crowd, some of which came wearing battle gear. They were beaten with flagpoles. They were beaten with fire extinguishers. They were sprayed with bear spray. Just the torment they went through, how much they felt in fear of their lives, but they were determined to do their duty. What heroes they were, how they returned to work within hours of that attack, even though what they should have done is seek medical attention. So I know I've been extraordinarily impressed, and I'm quite sure the public will be as well.
As you mentioned, the first witnesses in the first hearing tomorrow will be from law enforcement, various services who were there that day. In terms of who we hear from going forward, you've been asked this dozens of times. Well, what about hearing from the former president? What about hearing or calling perhaps the minority leader Kevin McCarthy because of conversations we know he had with the former president during that day? Even if the answer is yes, that you would want to hear from them, you would want to get their testimony, you've got some personal experience in this. I mean, how could you go about getting that? Just because you want it, does that mean it would be guaranteed to happen?
Well, it doesn't mean that it's guaranteed. It could mean that we have to go through an enforcement process. So now we were hampered in that over the last 4 years because the Justice Department was hostile to the mission. Bill Barr was at times implicated in what we were investigating. and so was not going to enforce a contempt against witnesses who were recalcitrant. That hopefully has changed, but time will tell. But we're going to do everything we can. We'll use the tools that we have. Those that refuse to testify, the public will likely draw an adverse inference that their testimony would be incriminating. But we hope to get as much of this evidence in the public realm as we possibly can.
Just to be clear, so our viewers understand what I think you're saying here, is that the Justice Department would enforce whatever contempt measures if they refuse to testify. Might. I'm not saying they would. I don't know that you know that they would, but that's what it would take. It would take the Justice Department, now led by Merrick Garland, to enforce whatever contempt measure to try to compel that testimony, correct?
Well, there are a lot of steps you would take before you ever got to that, where you would subpoena. First, you ask for their voluntary testimony, and then you subpoena them to come in, and then you continue to escalate the steps necessary to compel their appearance. We tried enforcing in the courts, and as you've seen, that can take years, as it did with Don McGahn. But there's another route. If the courts are unavailing, or if there's an attempt to delay and protract the matter through the courts, where you can hold someone in contempt and seek enforcement through the Justice Department. Now, I hope none of that's necessary, and we're obviously getting way ahead of ourselves. Mm-hmm. But there are a number of tools that we can use, and of course, we'll explore what we need to get the public answers.
Have you or anyone had any conversations with the Justice Department about this issue?
No, I have not. And let's hope that nothing like that is necessary.
Congressman Adam Schiff, we appreciate you joining us today. I know the committee is meeting today to talk about the hearings tomorrow. We look forward to watching them. Thank you.
Thank you.